The light shine in your face. The hands to the sky. The bass.
Good evening, listeners, and welcome to another KZN Racing Radio show where we'll do and continue the Bundesliga matches for the weekend. We kick off on Friday with Hoffenheim versus RB Leipzig. Having watched Hoffenheim draw 2-2 with Fortuna Düsseldorf last week, I was impressed. They played 80 minutes with 10 men, and they hung on grimly to get the valuable point. Leipzig landed one of our bets. We backed Paderborn to score in the second half, and they've won 4 and drawn 7 of the last 11 league fixtures, while away from home, they've won 3 and drawn 2, keeping 4 clean sheets in those 5 away games. Hoffenheim recently fired their manager, so it's a bit of a catch-22 which way I'm going to go. But I'm going to go under 3.5 goals at 9-10. Everybody expects an avalanche, but I think it'll be a tight encounter early on. 17.5-10 RB Leipzig to keep a clean sheet is also worth an interest, where Hoffenheim have had players sent off in 2 of the last 3 league games. So a red card in this game at 4-1 is definitely my value bet. On to Fortuna Düsseldorf versus Borussia Dortmund. As said earlier, Fortuna Düsseldorf couldn't beat Hoffenheim with 10 men, and they never looked like beating them by the last 5 minutes when they were throwing everything but the kitchen sink. Borussia Dortmund, I wasn't impressed last week. They beat Hertha Berlin 1-0 at home, but they missed several chances. Reports say their main young striker, Erling Haaland, is back in training and is expected to play. Whether he starts is another story, but either way, Dortmund should be too good. A Dortmund clean sheet at 12.5-10 is my idea of a good bet, and Dortmund to win and both teams to score no at 14-10 is also worth an interest. Dortmund to score over 2.5 goals at even money is worth a look at, but my anytime goal scorer is Julian Brandt. He plays up front, he's going to get plenty of chances, and at 17-10, I think he's worth looking at in the anytime goal scorer market. On to Hertha Berlin versus Eintracht Frankfurt. I've really been impressed watching Hertha Berlin the last 2 matches that they've played in. They really fought hard when losing 1-0 at Dortmund, and they had a great chance to go 1-0 up. They're well organized. They've won their last 2 league games at home, and I think they'll be the Eintracht Frankfurt team who have played 7 games in the last 25 days. They were beaten 2-1 at Bayern Munich in the Pokal Cup, which is the German Cup, which is a semi-final. And I think Hertha Berlin, to me, just over even money, the win looks a good thing. Also, -1 handicap at 24-10 is worth looking at. But I've got a great value bet at 9-2. Hertha Berlin to win both halves at 9-2 is my value bet. And I also fancy Hertha Berlin to score more than 1.5 goals at 8-10. On to Cologne versus Union Berlin. Cologne have drawn 3 and lost 3 of the last 6 league games, but they played well when they drew 1-0 at Augsburg last week. They conceded in the 88th minute when they looked like they had everything under control, but they face a Union Berlin team who, how they never beat Schalke last week, I don't know. They've drawn 3 and lost 4 of the last 7 league games and lost their last 3 away from home. But set piece-wise, I think they'll score. The betting side of this, I can't take even money Cologne. They haven't won in the last 6 league games, as I said earlier, and a wise man once told me, rather back a winner until he loses as opposed to a loser until he wins. So for me, even money Cologne, as much as I think they're the bet of the best of the bet, I just can't take them. Both teams to score at 6-10 looks a right play, and both teams to score on over 2.5 goals at 9.5-10 is also worth an interest. In a tight first half, I think there'll be goals in the second half. So both teams to score in the second half at 2-1, that's my idea of a punt in that particular game. On to Paderborn versus Werder Bremen. This is last chance saloon for both of these teams. Paderborn are last, 8 points from safety, where Werder are second last and 3 points from safety. Paderborn did great last week when they scored late to draw at Leipzig. They've drawn 5 and lost 6 of the last 11, but 5 of the last 6 at home have ended in defeat. But an interesting stat, they have scored in their last 9 home league games, and 16 of the last 17 games at home, they've scored. Werder have let me down lately. They've lost their last 2 games. Well, in the last 5, they've only scored 2 goals. I watched a bit of the Wolfsburg game last week. They never even look like scoring. If ever there's a value bet on the weekend, Byrne 21-10. If you're looking for an upset, I think that could well be it. Byrne in the draw for me at 6.5 to 10 looks to play in that particular clash. Well, I fancy Paderborn to score in both halves at 28-10. Like the previous game, I think the second half will open up, and both teams to score in the second half at 19-10 looks worth a punt. On to Wolfsburg versus Freiburg. If ever there's a team of mystery, it's Wolfsburg. Away from home, they've won 4 of their last 5, but at home, they've only won 1 of their last 7, losing their last 2. They play a Freiburg team who beat Borussia Mönchengladbach last week, Friday, but in their last 5 games away from home, they've drawn 3 and lost 2. Wolfsburg at 7-10 looks the right call because they are the better team, but 7-10 for a team at home who've won 1 of the last 7 is not for me. I'm going to go Wolfsburg to keep a clean sheet at 15-10, and Wolfsburg to win and both teams to score no at 19-10. On to the big game, Bayern Munich versus Borussia Mönchengladbach. Please note the top 3 strikers, 2 from Bayern Munich and 1 from Borussia Mönchengladbach, are missing. Lewandowski and Thomas Müller are suspended for Bayern, who have won 15 and drawn 1 of their last 16 league games, keeping 5 clean sheets in their last 7 league matches. I watched Borussia lose 1-0 at Freiburg last week. They should have been 3-0 up at half-time. Conceded early in the second half. Their main strike, Alisson, a player, got sent off, and they never looked like getting back. Bayern to keep a clean sheet at just over 15-10 is my play, because I can't take Bayern Munich -1 handicap at 8.5 to 10 as much as I think they'll win. Under 3.5 goals at 8-10 is also not my idea. So I'm going to go Bayern Munich to score over 2.5 goals at 9-10. Well, I fancy a few correct scores. I think Bayern will at 3-0 at 87-10. Well, I fancy them to take over late on, so I take a chance at 4-0 at 14-1. Sunday's first match is Mainz versus Augsburg. Mainz beat Eintracht Frankfurt 2-0, which ended a run of 5 matches without a win. But strangely, they've only won 1 of the last 9 at home. Augsburg have been even worse. They've won 1 of their last 10 league games, while away from home, they've lost 6 of their last 7. Mainz to win is my play at 13-10. Well, I fancy Mainz to score over 1.5 goals at 11-10. Likewise, my new bet is second half both teams to score at just over 2-1. Our final game is Schalke versus Bayer Leverkusen. Schalke's the worst team I've seen, which I've watched, and they face a Bayer Leverkusen team who have won 6 of the last 8 away league games. I watched Bayer Leverkusen in the first half play against Bayern Munich, and going forward they looked exceptional. Strangely, they tried to play offside and they got caught and ended up getting beat 4-2. Schalke was shocking last week. They should have got beat by Union Berlin. They've drawn 5 and lost 7 of the last 12. They've drawn 2 and lost 3 of the last 5 at home, and I just cannot have them. Bayer to win at 5.5 to 10 is obviously too short, but Bayer to win at 13-10 on the handicap looks a good price to me. Also, Bayer to win and both teams to score no at 15-10. Well, I'm going to empty out on Bayer Leverkusen to score over 2.5 goals at 17-10. That ends our weekend Bundesliga preview. Have a safe and happy punting weekend.